Welcome to Perspectives, a podcast by Essence Learning LLC, and a place where leaders learn from leaders. Let's join today's episode.
Hello, and welcome back for another episode of our Perspectives podcast. Today, we're going to bring to you a very special episode, one that we really haven't done before, and diving into some of our personal relationships here at Essence Learning and in life in general as well. Just for introduction purposes, I am the host as well as playing the role of the mentee today, because today we're going to talk about the impact of mentorship, the relationship between a mentor and a mentee. I will turn the next introduction over to Valerie, because she is my mentor in the other half of this podcast.
This is such a special discussion. I think it's important to have, but it's vulnerable and it's emotional for me, and I appreciate you really sitting down with us together. I guess we kind of mutually decided to do this, to have this discussion. You guys you already know me, I hope, as the CEO and founder of Essence Learning. And most of what we do, whether it's through training or whatever, we turn out as mentors. And so it's good to see Kiki sit in the seat now as a mentee, but I also know her as a mentor to many as well. So this will be a great discussion to have.
Yes, I think it will be, and it'll be a very emotional discussion, which we haven't gone down that path yet, right?
We'll see where it takes us,
our podcast, but this is going to be a first for us, and it's just really going to see where we go and where everything takes us. So, just a little background information so that the audience knows, because I know that not everybody knows us or knows about our relationship, but I used to report to Valerie during a time in my career where I was just coming up into the corporate world, and I had never really experienced any kind of leadership training, any kind of mentorship, coaching, etc. That whole new world was new for me as well. And I know that I presented many challenges to Valerie as well. And then I realized very quickly that Valerie has the skills, the spirit, the capability, the heart to really guide me to where I want to be in my life, in my career, and personally as a person as well, who can wake up and say that you are a good person and you have spirit and faith and hope also. So it's been a big impact for me. So it's been many years in the making for us to get to this point. And for us to even think about sitting down and doing a podcast, right? Which is something that, we didn't even think of day one of doing as well. So this has been quite a journey for us. You think so?
I absolutely agree. I laugh when you said even getting to the podcast, because, between all of you at Essence Learning who are considerably younger and understand the dynamics of reaching out to people and touching people, you understood that podcast was that means, and that we would have an audience that would appreciate what we do and what we offer. You mentored me in this space of why it was important to do a podcast. So as we think about relationships, and I think that's what we're calling this, the impact of mentor, the relationship between a mentee and a mentor. Let's kind of focus on that relationship piece.
Mm-hmm.
And relationships start sometimes at a very vulnerable place where people have a certain need, and someone can meet that need. And so that we build that relationship, come together as mutual partners in some situations. But I think that our responsibility as a leader is to understand where we can build those relationships. The fun part about being a leader is once you identify that, I could build a relationship with, and I'll use you, Kiki, in her her professional career, and helping to grow that professional career. The fun part of that is watching you say, I want that type of relationship, and I see you in that space. So us mutually coming to a place where it may have been a little while before we both got on the same page, but coming to a place where we could benefit each other. You growing within the organization and having a direct report to me definitely gave me and our team benefit. But to watch you gain your own benefit professionally is more rewarding than any mentor would say. And you know, because you're a mentor too, to watch people grow. So that relationship can start at different places, but I think ours just started at a professional level and grew into the one that we have today.
Yeah. And those are such important key aspects of building relationships with people, right? You have to put in that effort. I feel like we both put in the effort and the time to really work on building a relationship. You can't have a good mentor, mentee, dynamic if you're not building good relationships and having open dialogue and talking. And that's what a lot of leaders do miss out on. It's just like you have to be able to trust each other, right? Because we don't talk about trust enough, right? At one point, do you feel like it shifted for us for the trust aspect where we could both trust each other in what we were doing?
Kiki, I'm a hard one for that to happen. I respect and honor, even to a point where your skill sets and you professionally. When I start moving people into my circle of trust, it's not, from a professional perspective, it's not hard to move you from a place of respect to a place of trust from a professional perspective. I'm all about that. I think I want you to trust me. I'm open vulnerably from a professional perspective, and I'm willing to listen and be very open. It's that trust factor that, as you and I have built a relationship on a more personal side, allowing people into my personal life is another level of trust for me. And so that is a very difficult hurdle for me to come over. And so I spend a lot of time understanding you. I've spent a lot of time understanding you as a person, not just what you could do in an organization, which is phenomenal. You've proven yourself in so many ways that you have the skill sets and the balance as a leader to manage tasks, as well as to get things done through people, as well as you being able to hold your own against conflict and difficulties. So you have shown, from a professional perspective, your own growth there. And so now it's like, well, how do we now continue from a personal level? That trust, I think, over the last, since 2018 and 2019, when events happened in our lives, that we found each other again, building a different type of relationship.
Right.
So it was almost mimicking, there was a need and I could meet it at the time when we first started as a professional. That same type of dynamics reintroduced itself in our circumstances in 2019, where we needed one another and could support one another, and then begin to trust one another beyond professional to personal. And so I think for me, that's kind of that journey. I think we went through the journey professionally, and I trusted you probably immediately. I can't think of a time when I can't say from a professional perspective that I didn't trust you or respect you. I saw gaps and things that we needed to work on, but I don't think it ever was a matter of did I trust or respect you. I've always had that from a professional perspective. So that was a long answer to your question.
It's okay.
But I want to be real specific, with these, because we're talking about relationships.
Yeah. Is it for leaders that are listening out there, and trust and relationship, what advice would you give those leaders on, like, maybe they're struggling right now with building trust or their relationship with someone that they're mentoring?
Oh, well, if you're already in that role of mentoring, it's time to take a step back if you don't have a level of trust. So if someone has approached you to be a mentor and you're a leader, or if you feel that you should be mentoring someone and you have you don't have that trust factor, that and you need to re-examine why you're in the situation you're in. Why are you in a mentor relationship where there's not a level of trust that can exist? Because that's the foundation. That I've got to trust you have my best interest at heart. As a mentee has to have that, and a mentor has to have enough confidence that this person is going to, because as a mentor, you're going to be very vulnerable. I'm going to tell you the things that I was good at, the things that I failed at. I'm going to offer a lot of my own experiences from, to you as a mentor. So I've got to be able to trust that you're going to hold that in its context and not be like, well, she failed at 3 things. And so I don't, and disgruntled. And so I've got to trust as a leader that you're going to hold that in confidence and trust as well as that. So it's got to be that both. So if you're not trusting that person, I think that that's be the first place to examine what do we need to do? Start asking those questions about, is it me? And I'm holding back. I'm not willing to be vulnerable. Or is it something within the character of this person that I have some doubts about the relationship that we're building? And so that might be your place to start as a mentor mentee. Hey, we're in a leadership position. I've been assigned your mentor. Maybe that's even things. So let's start with, how do we build this level of trust where I can feel vulnerable and you can feel vulnerable? And so I think the idea that the mentor has to make sure that they understand that there's level of vulnerability, and I need you to hold that in its confidence. So I don't know. So if it were me and I was in a position where I didn't trust my mentee, I would start there and say, hey, we're in this relationship, and let's start figuring out ways that we can build trust with one another before we go any further into this.
Yeah. I like when you said, the level of vulnerability. That is huge, because I know for me, when I started trusting you, you were very vulnerable with me. And you just said, if you give me time, or you said this, I'm going to take you everywhere with me. Wherever I go, you're going to come along with me hand in hand. And so to me, that showed that you cared about not only me, but where I'm going in my path in life. And that right there just was like a world full of trust, because if this person is willing to invest that much time with me and know that they're going to walk with me hand in hand, then that there helps build a relationship with trust. So I do feel like people need to be more vulnerable, open up more, share more, and be more caring about it as well, because that is a big part of building relationships as well. Showing someone that you care helps out so much with building that trust, that relationship, especially when you're looking to someone for advice and being a mentor.
How does that look to you? How does showing someone you care look? What does that behavior look like? I mean, is it, time, resources? What does that look like? How do you know when someone cares?
And I think for everybody, it's different, right? Everybody has a different way of people showing that they care, because there are a lot more people who are introverted or extroverted. And so they have different ways of showing that. For me, it's a personal aspect, a personal connection. Just even, remembering my family, or taking time out of your day to ask how I'm doing, or knowing that you'll be there for me. That is really a way to show that you do care, and showing and having the caring feeling. It's a feeling, having that caring feeling when you're having a conversation with someone, to be, and you're talking about deep things, because I don't think people really understand that when you are a mentor and a mentee, we've had some conversations, right? Some very deep, intense conversations. And so I think with that, you have to have some kind of form of emotional feeling behind it, because you're opening yourself up to someone that is helping guide you through your life. And this is your own personal life. You only get one life. It's your life to live. And so when you have put people in your life to help guide them through that, you want someone to care about the life that you're living.
So it's that connection. You bring up a good point that I think we need to pin for a minute. When we think about how do we connect with people, it looks a little different for everybody. So you brought up, you the way that someone can connect with you. And as a mentor, we've got to find out what that connection is, and so that kind of circles back to your first part of our conversation about trusting. Once we connect in in areas that are important to you, then it's a little easier to build that bridge of trust, because okay, all right, she's showing me that, and I feel, and I'm connected, and so then trust can channel itself through that way of
Right.
communication, through our connection. So I think that's important. And when you think about leaders, how do I connect? I've got to know what's important to you, and then to use that as my vehicle to build the trust.
Yeah. And I also think from a mentee perspective, right? Because we just don't have mentors, we have mentees as well.
That's right.
Is that you have to give the same feelings back to your mentor. You just can't depend on them to be the only ones who are caring, right? Like you have to care about your mentor as well, because you're making an impact on them.
Absolutely.
In their life, right? And so I know that you've had many of people who call you their mentor as well. And so what has been some of the impact for you from a mentor side?
Wow, that's a great question, and probably a long answer. So I'm trying to figure out a way to kind of compact it a little bit so it's not so long. But basically, it keeps me relevant. By that I mean I need to make sure that I am continuously learning, that I'm living up to my full potential, that I'm looking for ways to be able so I have to feed myself so I can pour back out, right? So I need to look for ways that will actually give me joy. Mentorship allows people to give back to you, because you consistently educate me on things that I'm like, well, I hadn't think about it that way. I didn't know that was a problem. I didn't understand that. And so that continuous education comes from the mentee. They're bringing you a set of perspectives, a different way of thinking that, quite honestly, you probably wouldn't have thought about if you hadn't had these types of discussions. So that continuously learning, the affirmation that we all need comes from someone who needs you, right? So someone sitting across from saying, I need your point of view. I also need yours. I need your affection, your appreciation. I also need yours. So that give and take, the flip of that is, hey, I have a mentee that I'm going to go ask this question, or I'm going to ask them to provide some resource to this information. Oh, I have someone that you can touch base. You're also a resource. So I may be a mentor as a resource, but I know, hey, I have friend X, Y, and Z, but I trust Kiki. I know she has this skill set. She could be a great support with you in that. So you're a resource for me as well. So all of the things that you need as a mentee, as a mentor, we're all human. I need it as well. And so I get it back either by affirmation, continuous learning, new perspectives, resources. So all of those things. And then on the personal side, it's having someone that you have influenced a positive way, and that you know that if full circle, those that are coming behind us, you will influence them. So you're building a community around you, not just of your own legacy, but you're allowing others to do that. So that's rewarding in and of itself. So I think that it's a win-win scenario when you're a mentor and a mentee. And so I get a lot out of it. Probably the most rewarding is to see the success of your mentee, not to take ownership of any of it, because I think what we were talking even yesterday is I didn't go apply for that job that you got. I didn't go through the interview. I didn't present my skills and said, you did all of that. So I would maybe have encouraged you and be excited, but I'm excited now because you are using your own strength, your own courage, your own feet, your own voice to move forward. So opportunities, mentors can offer, but not, we can't offer opportunities. We can offer direction and guidance. You have to go after those opportunities. So to see you go after those opportunities and to grow at the pace that you've grown at, and then to see you also provide that same path for people behind you. Hey, I got a way for you to go, and I can help direct you and guide you and influence you, and I'll move out of the way so that you can make it happen. That's rewarding all in itself as well. So your success is rewarding.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that, because the impact for me has been huge, right? Because from a mentee standpoint, talking about the impact of that relationship, and particularly our relationship as well, is that sometimes I have to stop and catch myself, and I say, what would Valerie do at this time? And so it's been a daily impact, and almost like a daily affirmation, because, I reminded of so many life lessons. And so that impact of, where it's a daily thought of what you would say that comes to my head, that says a lot about the way that you have taken your mentorship and really embedded it, and then building a legacy for us as well, to get us to that level where we can pass on skills that we've learned from you and give them to someone else that we're also mentoring. So I think that's a huge impact. I think that anytime that you have a mentor that really dedicates the time and the emotional aspect behind it to invest in your life, from a soul investment into your life, it really does impact you day to day. How you make decisions at work, how you lead others as well. Even from the point of how I do my budget, or the way that I fight. We're in a difficult field. We're in leadership development. We're in diversity, equity, and inclusion. And those are very difficult fields to overcome in the corporate world, because you're constantly fighting for something. You're either fighting for programs, you're fighting for money, you're fighting for people, you're fighting for people, not only that people report to you, but you're fighting for people throughout the whole company and the whole organization, to better enhance their skills as well. So that impact is huge, because it's not an easy field to be in. It's a very difficult field, and it's an emotional field as well. So having someone guide you through that, it's like a boxer. You got to learn how to fight, and you get somebody in your corner that you look at and you say, I've taught you how to do all the moves. Now it's up to you to go out there and to do that fight. And so that has been such a huge impact for me, is that you've taught me how to do the fight, doing the fight in the right way as well, and not taking it to a level where it angers me and I don't want to do the job anymore. I love what I do because of that, because you've taught me how to do the fight right. And when someone can say that they love their job and they love what they do every day, I think that's a moment of success, right? But sometimes you need people to impact your life in order to get you to that point, to say, I love what I do every day because I've had someone who has taught me the right way to do what I know what I want to do, and my passion.
I hope you captured that somewhere to define a moment of success. That was huge, what you just said. And I'm glad to be a part of your journey. It's, at some point as a mentor, as long as we've been in this relationship as mentee and mentor, and now transition to friend, I think it's good to sit back and be able to watch, but it's great to be able to be a part of the journey, partnership, and walking with you. And at some point, these relationships turned into give and take partnerships. Hey, you know what? I got this going on. And so I know that you do that for me. And I know that you consider me in the way that you choose to live your life. And I'm glad to be a part of that. But I remember, that has been a journey where we had to build to that. And sometimes as a mentor, we think that we have or should have an open door to someone's entire life. If I'm the mentor, I need to know everything about And I wanted to just kind of pause back there and say, you define success a lot differently in the first 10 years that we were
It sure
together
did,
in this
because I was a
relationship.
troubled child.
Yeah, and defined success even 5 years ago differently. So to hear your definition of success now on this journey lets me know, because I know you personally, that was that's a personal statement of success, not a professional statement of success. And so I'm just excited to hear that. So when we think about what success is I can buy, I can have, I can do, I can lead, I can be in certain positions from a professional perspective. But doing what you love is and staying in the fight, even when it's hard, a sign of success. I think you've been able to manage professional and personal and find your good balance of success. That is huge as a mentor to hear that. And I don't know that that's what we hear.
Now I do.
Yeah, that's what we hear when you start. This is what I'm doing. You're like, okay, good. We look how far we've come. There's a measurement stick all the time that I do when I watch your journey, because it's like a parent almost. I'm not trying to tell you a child I'm a mom or anything like that, but when you watch someone's journey from an infant to an adult, that you remember everything, every seed you plant. The infant does it. They don't really know what you did. They don't know you fed me and they don't understand that till they get to an adulthood, or they're having to do that themselves. So I know now that you're appreciating, because you're raising these infants, you're walking through the journey with others. So now you're saying, oh, okay, this is what she would do here. This is that's why that's coming back, because now you're having to go, oh, what happened with me there? I don't know what I did at 5 years old. So, you go back and what happened? You have any pictures of me when I was 5? What did I do? Because you're trying to plant those same seeds. So I hear that as well. It's good to see that you're now putting those into practice. So
yeah,
that's great.
And it works reverse for me, because your journey and the way that you've built Essence Learning makes me so proud, because so proud. I've seen you from the beginning, start Essence Learning and get it to where we are now. I mean, look, we're doing podcasts, we're having conversations, we're out doing training and conferences and everything like that. The path that you've taken to build out your own business and become an entrepreneur is very inspiring for me. And it also, still gives me another pathway to say, even when you think or somebody knocks you down, there are other options for you as well. And that is influencing and inspiring to see that. So I think, it's important for our relationship, for anyone's relationship with mentor-mentee, is to see the success on both sides. And not just really count on your success as a mentee, but look at what your mentor's done and be proud to say, that's my mentor over there, building her own business. She's on TV. Yes, I mentor from her. It gives me a sense of pride and a sense of connection and success, because I want nothing more to see you achieve. Because when you achieve, I'm coming right along with you.
We already made that pact,
like we'd already made that pact. So, if you're going to California, I'm going to California. If you on TV, I'm gonna be right behind the camera, giving you encouragement as well. So I think that's so important. So I just want to thank you for taking time with me for years now, for taking time with me. But thank you especially for today, for us having this conversation.
I don't think we have broke it down like this before. I know that we just know what we meant to each other. So this is interesting. And before we sign off, I wanted to make sure that there's leaders out there, or there's mentors or mentees. This was a good conversation to have. Sit down and talk about what are you getting out of the relationship? What are the things we want to do to grow our relationship? What has been our journey? This is a great conversation to have. So I think we'll add this to the curriculum for mentors to start to have these types of open, candid discussions, because I just never really sat down and reflected on it with you on my own. Yes, as I prepare, or we talk about, you have a problem, you kind of internalize it. But for us to share, our journey and
Yeah.
and our successes as a result of our relationships. I think that's huge.
Yeah.
And so I like this. Thank you.
And it'd be interesting for those who are listening who have had mentors and the mentees in the past, reconnect with them.
That's right.
And have these conversations and go back and see, what are they doing now and how they've gotten there and the impact that you've probably made on their life. I think that's important to have too.
Great discussions. All right. I think we're
wrapping
did a
it
good
up,
job,
right?
huh?
So thank
Hope
you.
everybody enjoyed it.
Yes, thank you everybody for joining. And so with that, we're signing off for this episode.
Thanks, Kiki.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining Perspectives, a podcast by Essence Learning LLC. Essence Learning is your solution to personal and professional development. We partner with our clients to develop a learning strategy that will increase productivity, enhance performance, and align with their purpose and goals. For more information, visit us online at essencelearning.net or call us at 1-877-657-5755.